Welcome back to Nuremberg. Today, we're going to take a tour of the parade grounds. The amount of history here is through the roof, and you'll learn a lot today. Here's a model of what Hitler wanted the parade grounds to look like. We're going to start at the Leopold Arena at the bottom. It was built as a park in 1906, with a Hall of Honor added in the 1920s to commemorate Germans killed in World War I. In 1933, Hitler had the grandstands added and a granite path connecting the two monuments. At the far end of the arena is the Leopold Hall, again built in 1906, but expanded by the Nazis to accommodate 16,000 people. To really show you what the arena was like, here's a few clips from the film Triumph of the Will, a documentary about the 1934 Nazi Party rally. The Leopold Arena, the site where the Nazis filmed the movie Triumph of the Will and the 1934 Nuremberg rallies. This is the spot where they filmed a massive propaganda film. It was used as a giant Nazi stadium. I'll take you around today and show you a lot of stuff. Let's go. So this is the Temples of Honor here at the Leopold Field, where they filmed Triumph of the Will. This is the Temple of Honor itself. It's dedicated to all the people in Nuremberg who died in both World War I and World War II. So you can see here they got the dates of both wars. I'm standing at the very spot where Mr. Schicklgruber stood for Triumph of the Will, looking towards the Temple of Honor. Here, I'll take you forward more. In the movie, that big wreath was lying right where I'm walking. And just to show you, a monument dedicated to German soldiers in World War I and World War II. Just so you can read the writing. (1914 to 1918, 33 to 45), and it also talks about how this stadium was used by the Nazis between 33 and 45 here in Nuremberg. If I turn this way, here's another scene from the movie. This is where the band was, and the camera just went like this. Two interesting facts about the fire bowls is that they were not put there by the Nazis, but when the place was built a few years before Hitler took power. But because they got to be associated with Nazism, they haven't been lighted since the last Nazi Party rally in 1938. So, we're now off to see the other side of the arena. As you can see, the Leopold Arena has now been turned into a big park. In the film, Hitler stood right straight ahead of us on top of that hill. They tore down the grandstand, of course, because it was too much of a symbol of Nazism to leave. Okay, we're walking over to the other side of the field right now. Again, we're on the same line where Hitler was walking. And we'll take you over to where the podium used to be. And now we're on the spot where Hitler gave his big speech in the movie, right opposite the Temple of Honor. The big Nazi flagpoles would be right behind him. Of course, they're just bushes and trees today.
Wir stehen fest zusammen für unser Deutschland und wir müssen fest zusammenstehen für dieses Deutschland. Ich übergebe euch dann die neuen Feldzeichen in der Überzeugung, dass ich sie in die treuesten Hände gebe, die es in Deutschland gibt.
There are some parts of the stadium which are still intact. This was the edge right by the grandstand where Hitler spoke. And as you can see, some of the tiles of the stadium are still left intact today. Not many, but they're still there. And here there's even more remains of the stadium. They weren't able to completely demolish it due to the weight of the stone. They kept some parts intact, you can see here, obviously. So these steps, these are the remains of what used to be the steps to the Leopold Hall, straight up there. I'll show you a picture of the Leopold Hall in just a minute. It was used for all the indoor Nazi rallies here at Nuremberg. It was destroyed in a bombing during World War II. If you could see way up there, there's a picture of it. And below that's a picture of it inside. Here's a short clip from the inside of Leopold Hall to give you an idea what it was like. Okay, it's time to move on to the next stop in our tour, the Congress Hall Stadium. This structure here was being built by Albert Speer, Hitler's master architect, to be used as a stadium for Nazi rallies. It wasn't completed, and today is the documentation center, which I'll take you into in a few moments. The stadium was going to be called the Congress Hall, and it was modeled after the Colosseum in Rome, just 30% longer and 70% wider. Hitler laid the foundation stone in 1935, but construction stopped when World War II began. Today, it houses a museum. Let's go in and take a look at what it has. The center takes you back in time and describes the story of the Third Reich. Here, visitors can watch clips from Triumph of the Will and look at exhibits describing the aftermath of World War I. And of course, the hyperinflation, where money was so worthless in the early 1920s that it was thrown out in the street. And an original copy of Hitler's book, Mein Kampf. It also has on display a lot of Hitler memorabilia.
So this is a bust of Hitler, and as you can see behind me, a whole bunch of them were made. And does anybody want to see a real bust of Hitler?
Boom! Right in his face, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Hey. Okay, so here are some very interesting artifacts from the Nazi era. As you can see here, there is little children's drawings That's a Jew reading a sign saying Jews are not welcome here anymore. You can see here this kid drew, says the Jews are our misfortune. Here's another little children's drawing of a Jewish person, exactly the way the Nazis wanted kids to think Jews looked like. Here is an anti-Semitic book. Now this game right here, this game is pretty famous. It's called Jews Out. If you look, the wall, that's your town. And the little red guy on the right, that's you. And a cone-shaped thing on the left is a Jew. And the goal of this game was to kick the Jews out of your town. Hence the term, Jews Out. And if we keep going here, you're gonna see a copy of a very, very famous book called The Poisonous Mushroom, written by die-hard Nazi Julius Streicher. This says, How to Tell a Jew. It's a story of a class in Nazi Germany, and they're learning how to tell people who are Jewish by physical characteristics, apparently. And Julius Streicher also wrote this weekly newspaper called Der Stürmer, or The Attacker. And at the bottom of every issue, he would have this saying, Die Juden sind unser Unglück, or the Jews are our misfortune. You could even step outside into the middle of the Congress Hall to get a glimpse of what it looks like. At the end of the documentation center lies the stadium that Albert Speer was building back in the 1930s. This would have been a Nazi stadium for further rallies had the Nazi regime survived longer. As you can see, it was 50% done when the war started, and they had to stop due to lack of material. But this would have held over 200,000 people had it been completed. And here we are at the very center of the stadium. Originally, according to the plans, there'd be a post basically right here for Adolf Hitler to make his huge speeches to 200,000 people around us. So this is what it looks like from the very heart of the stadium that was unfinished. It wasn't supposed to be done until at least 1945. That's why the Nazis never completed. They never had the time nor the materials to do it. But it's a pretty big place, let me tell you. Here's a model of the completed building with a roof and a stand for Hitler in the center. Well, that's the end of our tour of the documentation center. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed all the exhibits I showed you. And we're off. Next on our tour, we're going to see the so-called Great Road, or Great Street, and the site of the massive German stadium. This is known as the Great Street. Albert Speer built this, and it was supposed to connect every major Nazi stadium in Nuremberg, from the Leopold Field to the Zeppelin Field to the huge stadium that he was designing to seat 400,000 people, which would be right over there beyond those trees. It was never built. But Speer's Road is still existing today. The Great Road was specifically designed to point northwest, directly at Nuremberg Castle, located in the northern end of the city. This was to create a relationship between the Nuremberg of the Third Reich and that of the 1,000-year First Reich, or Holy Roman Empire. To test this, we went to the castle and looked out onto the city. Sure enough, we could see the parade grounds to the southeast. The German stadium was designed to hold over 400,000 people, and to hold such events as the Olympics, as Hitler thought every Olympic Games would soon be held in Germany. Construction began in 1938 with the excavation, but stopped when the war started. Afterward, part of the excavation pit was used to dump debris from the bombed-out ruins of the city. The rest of the pit filled in with water and became a lake. Swimming is strictly forbidden in the lake because toxic chemicals from the ruins flow into it. Quite an unremarkable end to what was going to be the largest stadium ever built, including up to this very day.
And I don't know what is going on there. The water's bubbling. But I can tell you one thing. There's a sign that warns people, don't do anything here. So I don't know what the Nazis were up to. But obviously it was not good.
So we're off to see our next site, the big one. Across from the Congress Hall and the Dutzendteich Lake is the Zeppelin field. Designed to be the successor to the Leopold Arena, it comprises a huge grandstand topped off with an enormous swastika. Along its outer edges are other seating areas for people to see the rallies. It was completed in time for the 1938 Nuremberg rally. To show you its intended effect, here's a clip from that year's showpiece. And here it is today. The upper part of the grandstands were taken down in the 1960s over safety concerns, but the main section still remains.
And go see the podium.
Oh my god! Wait, hang on. I want to picture this.
Oh, this is about when the U.S. Army came and liberated Nuremberg in April 1945.
Okay, here we are at the Zeppelin field. This was completed in time for the 1938 Nuremberg rally. This was the second stadium besides the Leopold field. As you can see, there's a big building behind us, a big structure. On top of the building, right in the middle, used to be a huge golden swastika. And in April 1945, the U.S. Army liberated Nuremberg, and they put dynamite on that swastika and blew the whole thing up. And it was captured on video, so it's pretty famous. But during the rallies, this was the place where Hitler would give his speeches. Literally, Adolf Hitler stood right here at this very spot and gave speeches to a crowd of hundreds of thousands of people. And then thousands of Nazi stormtroopers would march by right down this road. So it's a very important site in the history of the Third Reich and the use of Nuremberg as the spiritual center of Nazi Germany. And right inside the main structure through those doors, it's actually, the room is still intact. If you're able to open the doors to go inside, it's a huge hallway with a cauldron in the middle. They used to have an eternal flame, but they don't have that anymore. The cauldron's there, but of course the flame's not lit anymore. But this was the big site of the Nazi Party rallies. Just imagine, 80 years ago, this stadium had hundreds of thousands of people in it. It's pretty incredible that this has actually survived to this day.
The swastika will no longer flaunt its crooked arms above the Nazi shrine.
Okay, let's see if we could open this door here so I could show you the cauldron in the hallway. Ugh. Nah, guess not, guys. Oh well. But as you can see, here's another view of the entire stadium.
Tell them something.
Hitler will lead Germany into the abyss. Don't listen to this guy. Well, we have one last place to see on our tour, the Transformer Station. Albert Speer designed it to power the Nuremberg rallies, since its night processions used so much electricity the local supplier wasn't able to handle it. From these photos, you can clearly see why. It even amazes people today. The building is no longer used for its intended purpose. It's well, just come with me, and you'll see what it is now.
You may wonder why we're here at Burger King. Well, this isn't just any old Burger King. This building was the former Nazi electric company for the Nuremberg rallies. As you can see right above the door is the Nazi eagle, the whole swastika and everything. They just chipped away at it. So the Nazi power station is now a Burger King. Go figure, right?
So that finishes our tour of the parade grounds. I hope you now have an understanding of the area, and learned a bunch of new things too. It's always a pleasure to bring students to Nuremberg, both in real life and in our in-class field trips. See you next time.